The Walking Dead, Season 11, Part 2, episode review video. Before I talk about that, though, pretty important. I, of course, was able to watch this episode early on the Amazon Prime AMC channel, so if you're not caught up to the point where I am rewatching or watching The Walking Dead, or you're just not entirely sure, then you definitely need to take the initiative and pay attention to the episode's title, which, of course, I'll mention as well as put in the description for you. If that happens to be the case and you're not caught up, it would be my recommendation that you don't watch this video any further to avoid any potential spoilers. And make sure you sound off in the comment section about what you think about this episode. And I'll, of course, respond to all comments because I love discussing The Walking Dead. And make sure you're subscribed to the channel. This will be The Walking Dead Season 11, Part 2, Episode 15. The title of this episode is called Trust. And this will be my review, reaction, recap after just finishing watching the episode. The episode starts off with us seeing what's left of Toby Carlson's body as he was surrounded by walkers after his fall at the apartment complex. And Lance Hornsby is questioning Gabriel and Aaron as to what happened and how this happened. And the things that they're telling him don't necessarily add up in his head. So he asks Daryl for his opinion. And Daryl says that, they're telling the truth as he's been with them. They're telling the truth. And Lance says at the end of the day, he really just wants justice. So next they'll go to the hilltop to try to find the person that's behind these massacres. And then we see a scene where Mercer's alarm goes off at 5:45 in the morning. And him and Princess are indeed sleeping together, which I think we already knew, but this really confirmed it. And they start talking about sex and their relationship. And Princess tells Mercer if there's anything he needs to get off his chest, that she's a pretty good listener, as he's obviously not telling her things and something is bothering him. But he says to her he's fine. Rosita tells Connie what Sebastian did at the house, having them go outside the perimeter to try to get cash out of the safe. And Carol takes RJ and Judith to school, I believe. And then Ezekiel shows up, and Ezekiel seems extremely happy, like he's been given a second lease on life, for now, until they kill him off, possibly. Says he never properly thanked Carol, and Carol says and he asks Carol what her new position is, like what she does, and Carol says it's better that Ezekiel doesn't know. He doesn't need to know anything about what she does. So Ezekiel says he's getting healthy again and that she's stuck with him. Lance Hornsby asks Daryl, Aaron, and Gabriel to fight off a bunch of walkers on their way to or rotters as they call them, on their way to the hilltop as they want to save ammunition, and they're still good with hand-to-hand combat without using weapons, and they make short work of the walkers or rotters pretty easily. Ezekiel goes to visit Tommy, and he asks Tommy to perform an appendectomy to someone he knows, but we don't find out who at the moment. And then Lance and the troops do arrive at the hilltop and ask Maggie if they could look around, just because of what's happened, and he's trying to get to the bottom of this. And then we see this scene from episode 1109 where Daryl's like, the part where Daryl's at the hilltop entrance and all that. And he says that he's not asking her to trust Lance Hornsby. He's asking her to trust him. And then Maggie eventually lets them enter the hilltop. Max goes to talk to Mercer, who, of course, is her brother, in case you needed a reminder on that, about the things that Eugene told her. I guess I didn't mention yet that Eugene had run into Max and told her some information about the list and all that Rosita and Connie were talking about. And then Tommy and Ezekiel steal some morphine. And I guess I should mention that Max asked Mercer to do the right thing. Like, he's kind of not necessarily done the right thing all the time. But back to what I was talking about. Tommy and Ezekiel steal some morphine, but then they run into a Commonwealth soldier and they're kind of detained. Lance takes a look at a truck at the hilltop because he said there's a truck that was at the the annihilation of these hilltop people at the apartment complex, but the truck doesn't start for Lance, and Maggie tells him that your people have till sundown to leave. And Carol actually gets Ezekiel and Tommy out of trouble, and then they take the morphine to his zoo area, and apparently this is for a character named Teresa. We didn't really meet Teresa. She was laying down. I guess it's a new friend of Ezekiel's that he met while he's been at the Commonwealth. And then we see a scene where Mercer talks to Princess again, and he apologizes to her. He tells her that he's killed some of his men because of things that they did, and that goes well. And Princess, he didn't even have to say that. She'd already forgiven him. And then we see Herschel, and Herschel is at Glenn's gravesite at the hilltop. And then Lance Hornsby comes in the scene and questions him, as Lance had found Herschel's hat at the apartment complex, and the hat fits Herschel just fine. And as he's saying that, Elijah comes from out of nowhere and pins Hornsby up against a wall. And then all of a sudden, all the Commonwealth soldiers draw their guns out on Elijah. And Maggie draws her gun out. Daryl draws his gun out. Eventually, of course, the soldiers say that they will fire, and Lance says they'll leave. And then one of the soldiers tells Lance, after they left the hilltop, that they found something around the campsite that they're at on their way back to the Commonwealth. And Ezekiel tells Carol she makes the light, and Carol says they're not getting back together. And Ezekiel's like, that's what you keep saying. So Ezekiel and Carol are going to get back together, or one of them is going to die, Ezekiel, most likely, unless there actually is a Daryl and Carol spinoff. Regardless of that, then apparently this Teresa character has some kind of complication or problem, and Tommy actually has to perform an emergency surgery or something like that, and everything seems fine. She's stable, and he's stitched her up, but they'll know more in 24 hours. And it looks like everything went well from my vantage point. And then Max goes to Eugene's, and the part that's really important there is that they end up kissing. So there's romance in the air. I could see them easily killing off Max, though, just to make Eugene not happy, and maybe some hope for him and Rosita at some point in this season, maybe. And Max also asks Eugene something about what they need to steal, like information that they need to steal to get to the bottom of this mystery at the Commonwealth. And then it turns out the Commonwealth soldiers have found, or this Commonwealth soldier and a couple others have found Leah's campsite, not capsite. And she's able to surprise them and ambush them and shoot a couple of them in foot. And as Lance has his hands up, he's walking, trying to find her. He says they've come a long way to find her. And before she kills them, he just wants to talk. And she does appear and says, talk fast. So Lance says he wants to offer her a job. And that's when the episode ends. So I was thinking this episode would be a lot more crazy than it was, but it still had some good moments. Eugene got to kiss Max. I almost said Stephanie. I don't like the fact that they changed her name. I don't see the point in doing that. Ezekiel seems like he's all cured, at least for now. And interesting things are going on with the Hilltop. As far as the score of this episode, I'm going to give it an 8.2 out of 10. Like I said, it was good, but I wasn't super into the episode once I knew it probably was going to end with an amazing highlight reel for next week's episode of what the craziness is going to go down. I think next week's is going to be really good. So my character of the episode, I think the standout character for this particular episode was Ezekiel. You could say Eugene. You could even say Maggie or Daryl, but I think in this one, it was Ezekiel. So you've heard what I have to say. Now it's your turn. Like I said before, if you're a fan of The Walking Dead, if you like anything Walking Dead related, such as Fear the Walking Dead or different Walking Dead news. I don't necessarily talk about the world beyond, but I definitely will cover Isle of the Dead once that comes out. And who knows if I'll talk about the Daryl and Carol spinoff. But if you like that stuff, or UFC reactions, or Dexter videos, or anything on JDev TV, make sure you smash that like button. It, of course, helps me out with the YouTube algorithm. Don't forget to sound off, like I had mentioned in the comment section, about what your thoughts are on this episode. Who would be your character of the episode, and what would you score it? And if you have a favorite moment, what would that be? And last, but certainly not least, don't forget to hit that sub button. Subscribe to the channel. I'm always trying to grow the channel. I definitely want more people that like The Walking Dead to be subscribers, because I love discussing The Walking Dead. But join the team, show your damn support, and be a part of something special. And JDev will return.